to welcome our three team principals, James Barclay from Jaguar TCS Racing, Tommaso Volpe from Nissan Formula E, and also Phil Charles from DS Penske. James, we'll start with you. It's obviously been a very good 2024 for Jaguar TCS Racing. Your defence of the Teams and Manufacturers Championship starts tomorrow. How are you feeling, and how confident are you that you can retain these championships, and perhaps add the trifecta, the Drivers' Championship as well?
Yeah, well, firstly, afternoon everyone. Nice to be here. Nice to be in Sao Paulo for the opening race of the season. It's been a lot of work leading to this point, but we're all raring to go. Yes, it's an amazing feeling, obviously, coming to the first race as reigning Teams and Manufacturer Trophy champions. The team have done an amazing job to get us to this point, so it's an honour to be starting the season as champion in that #1 pit garage. It's a nice motivating factor for everybody. But winning one championship is great. The objective is to try and repeat and continue to do that. We are really kind of clear though that we can't be complacent. We start with a reset. It's a new reset of the competitive order with new homologation for the cars, and it's going to be about re-establishing that position. And you can't take anything for granted. Where we finished last year is not a guarantee of where we start this year. That's the mindset as we've come into preparing, developing this car, and now starting this season. So that's good. Formally it should be exciting. It should be difficult. It means more if you can win it that way. And the two gentlemen to my left and right and their teams, and the other teams in the grid are going to make that incredibly difficult. So yeah, it's going to be an incredibly exciting season. I think probably the closest season I can think of coming in my time in Formula E, looking at the competitor set, it looks to me possibly to be the most competitive season ever.
We're all looking forward to seeing the new Gen 3 Evo car. Obviously we'll see it for the first time on track at a race weekend later today, but the first race will be tomorrow. What are the biggest challenges that you have when you introduce a new, I know it's not a new generation of car, but a new homologation of a car?
Yeah, well, the technical regulations are, there's a lot of change, right? Simply going to four-wheel drive for the qualifying, the launch and the attack mode, the 350 kilowatt on four-wheel drive with new tyres compared to 300 kilowatt rear-wheel drive and old tyres. We saw that 5-6 seconds at Hirama. So there's a lot there. There's a lot technically to optimise in terms of performance, how the systems in the car work with four-wheel drive, and then work with rear-wheel drive. Legalities are a massive point, switching between rear-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. We have full TC on four-wheel drive. So it's been a significant technical challenge. We then throw in one of arguably the most important parts, which is the tyre, and we have a very different tyre. So there's a lot of change, there's a lot to consider technically, and then sportingly, we of course have attack mode becoming attack mode again. You can really overtake cars on the difference when you have that overlap. So that will be a major factor. And then if and when we introduce pit boost, that becomes a whole different style of race format. So there's a lot, in summary, there's a lot, but it's something which you either choose to worry about that and make that really stressful, or you embrace that with both hands and you make the most of it, and that's got to be our approach as a team.
And of course all teams are on the same level playing field when it comes to the new regulations, so everyone's working with the new car. Tommaso, we'll move on to you. Oliver Rowland obviously got a podium here last season, which was a great result as he rejoined the team and had a great season. How confident are you that another podium is in store for Nissan this weekend?
100%.
Got your lucky eggs hidden somewhere?
Joking. As James said, it's different cars, so everything is more complex, and attack mode will be different. And I would say Oliver is very confident. Of course, he's very confident about this season, this year. But I think the first races will be a little bit challenging for everyone. So not necessarily you will have the values that might be settled down later on during the season. So there is a little bit more an element of randomness, because it will take time for different teams to learn the new tires, the perfect strategy with the attack mode, etc., etc. So Oliver and we as a team, we are confident because we had an extraordinary season last year, considering where we were coming from. However, we need to be also realistic that it's a new car, and the competition will be tougher for sure this year from many teams, I think.
Of course, and you obviously have Norman coming back into the fold as well alongside Oliver. The change to the all-wheel drive in attack mode is something we briefly touched on there. That will change a lot of strategy. When I speak to drivers, it's now not something they deem that they maybe need to tactically get out of the way. It's more of a tool to really have an advantage. Do you think that attack mode will be something that your use and strategy evolves over the first few races of the season as you learn how the strategy should work with this technology?
It definitely is going to be a very steep learning curve because we start from a blanket sheet, I think. Also, when we have the pit boost, of course, this will be another level of complexity. The thing is that the attack mode definitely guarantees a different gap in performance, but there is another element to take in consideration, which is the degradation of tires. So it's not that straightforward, it's not that linear. There are more variables to take in consideration. So if you have the life of tires like for like, of course you have a huge gap with attack mode or without, but if you have different level of tire degradation in different moments of the race, this gap is different. It can be also on the other way around. So it's more complex. So I can see this being a learning curve for all teams during the season. That's why I was saying maybe the values you will have in the first races might be not necessarily the same that you will have at the end of the championship and next season either.
I think it will add to some more exciting racing in season 11. Phil, I'll move on to you. Obviously, Jaguar and Porsche were fairly dominant last year in terms of the powertrains. How confident are you that this year DS can close that gap to those two manufacturers and also challenge others, such as Nissan, that will be hoping to get in the mix as well?
Sure. Well, good to see everybody, by the way. So the first thing, to put that into perspective, when you come back to the first test of a new season, it feels a little bit like when you were a kid at school and you went away for the summer holiday and you come back and you don't know whether he's been on football camp, but he's better than football than me now. He's been to chemistry camp and he's better. So you come into that first test and you want to know if you're still the best at football. But the tricky bit is we're not playing football on the first day. You go to Valencia or Jarama this time and it's not absolutely the perfect average track for the season. It's got some peculiarities. For example, Jarama's got really high speed corners and that's quite different to here. We're quite stop-starty and rotating the car is really important. So we go away from there with some really interesting information, but we don't yet completely know if we're good at football on all pitches yet. So we haven't got the complete view, but what we can tell you is that either way, the whole grid is closed up a huge amount. So it's going to be an amazing championship this year, super, super close. There are no weak competitors. Everybody is really in good shape. So I think it's going to be an amazing season. And these guys have already summarised it pretty well. We'll know after a few races. We won't know for sure at the first race. We'll evolve our understanding of the tyres and the strategy attack mode, and you'll start to see the pattern emerge after a while. This first view, going to be really, really interesting, but it's going to be a great championship.
Continuing your football analogy, you've got a new striker in your team this year in the form of Maximilian Günther. Someone who has 5 race wins in Formula E, certainly knows how to put himself on the podium. How have you found working with him so far, and what's the relationship between him and John Eric?
So first of all, we had Stoffel van Dorn last season, and he was an amazing driver, super, super fast. So that was really tricky to see Stoffel, wave him off. But what we've got in Max is a new personality, a new character, and a new set of skills that he brings with him into the team. So across the two drivers, we've got a really good overall view as a team because we've got different type of driving style. We've certainly got different characters. They challenge us in different ways. And what I can tell you of Max is he's really on all the little details. So all the preparation has been absolutely to the fine kind of nth degree. Everything we've looked into really hard, and he's pushed us on all those little bits. So that's got some goodness. It's got some real goodness for us as a team. Jed's pushing us in one direction, making sure we've covered those bases. And Max is coming in and looking at the fine detail to really pick up the little crumbs and make sure we've got everything right. So between the two, I'm very excited. Really good drivers. These guys have got very good drivers as well. But we've certainly got a really, really strong driver lineup. And I'm really pleased and excited to see how they go this year.
Do you know which one of the two is best at football?
Cool, that's a good question. Do you know what? I think both of them would be pretty ferocious on the field.
Okay.
They don't mess about, so I'd watch out for the slide tackles. That's what I would say.
Okay, some social content for you there. We have time for one, maybe 2 questions, and the gentleman to my left here has already pre-arranged a question, so here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Guilherme Bloise from Grande Prêmio, and my ask is